Welcome to the Married in Real Estate Show. In this show, we highlight power couples working in real estate together. In today's episode, we have a powerful couple. I'll let Rebecca introduce you guys.
Well, we've got Brady and Megan, and they are out of Flagler County. They are icon agents with EXP. And I mean, guys, you have racked up a whole bunch of accolades here. I'm looking at Realtor of the Year, Palm Coast Citizen of the Year, Flagler County Association Realtor President, and the Florida Realtor YPN Chair. Wow, you guys are busy.
I love that, Brady.
I love it. I love it. But you guys, I know that it always takes a village, right? And so tell us a little bit about yourselves. Like, how did you meet? When did you get started in real estate?
So, I got started in real estate first. So I moved to Florida about 9 years ago, and I was a teacher in my previous life. And when I got here, I didn't want to teach. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, why don't you try real estate? You like people." And I was like, "Okay." And it was 2013. So the market was on the upswing. And it ended up really just being something I fell in love with, just the ability to meet people, talk to people, and just be able to help people. And I don't know, I just fell in love with it. And then probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years into my career, I had this really handsome buyer who wanted to buy a house. And then I moved into the house, and that was Brady. So,
oh my God, that's awesome. So wait. So he was your client, your buyer? No, you got to tell us more about that. How did that even come about?
Not. I obviously, was I in the market for a house? Yes, but I didn't see a house at the time when I saw her. So I thought of a good way to leverage the situation, though, and see what could happen. And then, yeah, sure enough, ended up buying a house, and I needed a realtor. And I guess since I was with her at that point, just made sense.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so then you were in another industry, right? Or like,
yeah, it's in the finance industry.
I saw that you graduated from Michigan State, and so both of you, by the way, are from the north, right? You're from Michigan, she's from Pennsylvania, and you guys were getting out of the snow, found yourselves in Flagler County. Tell us a little bit more about that. How did you get started in the state?
I've been in Flagler County since 2004, moved down here because of education, and started teaching for 5 years. And one of my students' parents were financial advisors and still are. And they said, "Hey, stop making that teacher money. Why don't you come make a little bit more and help us out?" And so I did jumped into the financial industry, and still continue to do it today.
You opened your own.
Yeah, opened my own office in the meantime, but had been working with them, and it was just on a weekend hanging out with them that I met Megan.
And we, I moved down here, like I said, almost 9 years ago. And I was teaching as well before I got into real estate. And when we started dating, and I think, were we dating or were we married when you got into real estate?
We were married, technically.
Okay, yeah. So it just kind of started off slow. Like I got busier and then he started helping me out with some things here and there. And naturally finance and real estate, like there's similar language. It's, you know, especially like he's more data driven and analytical, and I'm like touchy feely, like, here, sure, we can talk about where you're going to raise Johnny, you know, which
I love it. It's such a beautiful combination, and you guys clearly complement each other well. So tell us a little bit more about how you guys learned to work with each other in business and that whole aspect.
Sure. I guess it's been like, what, 4 years, 5 years that we've been working?
4 years, 5 years. Yeah, 5 years now, just about. Figuring her out and then getting into it myself. Of course, going through the roller coaster, right? I mean, that's how you learn to work with one another. and then also observing and just paying attention and watching each other and how each other, work. When I went to one of the first conferences I went to with Megan and got to see her in action, right? And just see how she really networks and is a people person. And it just blew my mind. And just watching how great she really is at connecting with people and so on. So, for me, it was just taking a step back and watching. Did we have our battles? Yeah, of course we did. Right?
Mm-hmm. So talk to us a little bit maybe about those battles, any challenges that you guys have had and how you've overcome those challenges.
Sure. So I will.
Yes, ma'am.
I will
Yes.
say, Harry.
That's the safe answer.
I'm a control freak, a recovering control freak. And, it was, I mean, when I got into the business, I always wanted to be the least smart person in the room. So I was always trying to get into bigger rooms where I could learn from more and more people. And so that's kind of how I grew my business and started a team and just grew from there. And I did make mistakes along the way with some bad hires. And because of those mistakes where, I lost time, money, data, I was very with all of the business. And so I will say that I really micromanaged a lot at the beginning of us working together. And that was something that we've really had to talk through, because I would say for me, that was my biggest flaw, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so just watching Brady, I mean, it's been really, really awesome to watch Brady. To be honest with you, he's a much better realtor than I am. And I am very happy to say that. He knows the contracts forward, backwards, upside down. And so just understanding his strengths and knowing that he's good at what he's good at and I'm good at what I'm good at, and to get out of the way. This last year, especially, I took some time off and I stepped completely away from everything and I watched Brady soar, and it was really cool to do that because I mean, in my heart, I obviously knew that and I trusted him, but sometimes as business owners, we get in our own way, and I was in the way of me and Brady by just not being able to give up that control.
So you're saying something that is honestly really important, because you're not the only one who suffers from that. So many of us can relate to that, because you have this idea of how you want to do it, and you really want to micromanage. You don't realize you're doing it, but you are, right? And so in doing that, what you're doing is strangling any chance of growth, because that other person has to live under that microscope or that image that you've put them under, and they're not living up to that idea of what you had, and they can't flourish in their own right because they're being conformed to the box that we're putting them in, right?
And it looks more like she's the driver and he's more of the integrator one.
Okay.
You could say that. Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful that you were able to step back and let him do his thing, and how awesome it was to see that he's pretty awesome, right? He was able to soar, and without any help from you, right?
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Well, I think part of it was we didn't really have a choice too, right? I had to do it, and it was that or we failed, right? Trying, and there wasn't much choice into it. And from it also just, I think, going back and pointing out and working together, obviously, but pointing out to Megan, hey, in the past, I've been able to do this and that, right?
And the other really, really important part that kind of forgot to mention is that we also hired a business coach. And that has been, I have had a coach, and it was kind of me and then Brady sometimes. And then, it wasn't really both of ours together. And this last one, when we hired our coach that we're coaching with right now, it is our coach together, and we're both on the calls, and we're both talking about what are our strengths. And we even do that on the call, Brady, how's this going? Megan, how's this going? And, really just figuring out what our roles are, deciding exactly what those roles are. And then also reminding each other, hey, like I got this, you know, in that way where, I mean, even before when I walked in here, I was like, the light's not set up. And then I was like, okay, is this really an issue that the light's not set up yet? No, it's not at all. So it's like, just like those old habits can come up sometimes of just being able to remind each other, like, it's okay, I've got this, you know, and being able to move forward on it.
And I would say just in real estate and transactions in general too, especially at the beginning, being able to work together on transactions, right? Because then obviously I could see her marketing expertise, which she can do all day. Me, no, not going to happen. But I mean, she dominates it and she's great at it, right? But then also in working with customers, and sometimes customers can be a little bit difficult, you know, and so how each person, you know, communicates with that person and their personalities and the strengths that they bring to it. And sometimes where they have to take a step back. Megan has definitely been in the position where she was ready to fire someone. She was done out, right? And I've been just about the same way. And it's just like, hey, you know what? I think you'd work a heck of a lot better with this person because you can communicate better with one another. And
So important.
I love that you brought that up, Brady, because Rebecca and I does the same thing. You know, when we have different clients, sometimes like I feel like sometimes it'll benefit for her, vice versa. And we used to we used to do that a lot. Yeah, and it's a great thing to do because sometimes they may not be aligned with you the way you are, but they can be aligned with Megan, you know. So
right. Absolutely.
it works out great.
And you got to play to each other's strengths as well.
Yeah.
So you realize where you're stronger and where she's stronger. And as long as you guys have kind of defined those roles. So talk to us a little bit about defining roles. So you already mentioned that she's better in the marketing and things like that. So how did you discover those roles?
Riding the roller coaster, right? I mean, definitely getting to some arguments here and there. You know, of course, part of that is control, and you
I
don't
like
want
to
to
call
see
them challenging conversations, but
I like that. Yes.
right. Yes, challenging conversations, right? But being able to have those, and I think anybody who works together, right, you are going to have those because obviously your personal life is going to be a little bit different than how you operate in business, especially when one's been in it already, right? And they're familiar with it. So allowing someone to come in. But having those and know you're going to have those.
And I think too, like just, you know, we're together, you know, for several years before we got together in business, and just knowing like Brady is we are polar opposites, and Brady is so analytical and I like barely can open Excel, like the spreadsheets, you know? And so
yeah, I did see that in Brady when I first met him. I did see that in him. He's just laser focused into what he knows. Yeah. And I see that you're the more outgoing person, like, hey, you know, how are you? Social is social. So, but listen, it's a great thing because you guys balance each other, which is awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know for me, like, I really had to put my ego aside and just be like, okay, if like that, like, what's the goal? Like, the goal is to get this transaction done. Like the particular customer he's talking about, that was a really big turning point in our business. And it was somebody who was an engineer. It was somebody who was old school business minded and like did not want to work with a woman. And that, like, I could have blown up, right? Like I could have went off the handle and lost it and probably got a really bad review about it. But I was like, you know what? Like, Brady, why don't you take this over? And when he did, and we still got, you know, like, we still ended up getting to the closing line. The person still got in their home, close to their family, which was their goal. We still ended up, you know, having another transaction and getting paid, obviously. And once I realized, like, oh, wow, that didn't matter. Like, it didn't, you know, put myself aside. I'm not that important. And like, for me, that was a really big thing, a really big turning point in our business, was like realizing like I don't have to do it all. And also what a blessing it is that I don't have to do it all. So.
I think that's a huge point that you mentioned, that we don't have to do it all. And you have to take in consideration the needs of the client, right? But I think delegating is so important, and knowing when to step away, right? If our ego gets in the way, then we just lose the deal altogether. And what good is that, right? Mm-hmm. The client wasn't served. and you didn't get the deal anyways. So I think if we can take ourselves outside of the equation and really think it through, find a better solution for them. It doesn't have to be through me, right? It doesn't have to be through him. And I think we do the same thing as well.
Yeah, we do. And I think Veronica brought it out best at Relaunch Live Tampa. She says, sometimes that, our business is an example of how it is back in your home. You understand? And sometimes we have to remember that what you bring in from your personal, you can see it in your business. You understand? And when you're able to kind of work through those situations and those tough conversations and bring it back at a positive note and understand one another in your business, man, it all works out. And she brought that up at Relaunch Live, and it made a lot of sense.
She also mentioned that if you have a hot mess at home, those things tend to show up in your business. And so you got to get your foundation straight, right?
Absolutely. One thing that we started doing, I guess at the beginning of the summer, we're not as consistent as we were, but we started doing this 7 to 1 in the evenings, little like positives and then 1 constructive. And so that is the human psychology, to have a relationship that thrives. You need to have between 5 and 7 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction. And so we would tell each other 7 things that we appreciated about them.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I love that so much. I mean, that alone can strengthen your relationship, just to be sharing those 7 positives. And of course you have to share, constructive criticism as well, but that is beautiful. I love that.
Well, and for me too, like I went into it, I can remember like the first couple times you did it, I was going into it like, oh gosh, like I knew all these like negative things like he's going to bring up today. And like, I would have this like list and he'd be like, I wish you put your bowl in the sink instead of next to it. And I'm like, oh, like, okay. Like, so I'm like building up this big thing in my head when really it's just this small item. And so it allowed for me to also to enter these conversations with my guard down rather than defensive, because I know the end goal is to like strengthen our relationship as a couple and of course in our business. So it's a whole lot easier, at least for me, to hear that constructive feedback when, I have that setting in, like it's a safe setting for it. And also like there's all the other good stuff that you're hearing too.
Yeah, that's very important. That's why we're very when it comes to the 5 C's, pillars of a healthy relationship. We touched on that. Those tough conversations actually turn out to be the best conversations, and when you're able to understand and work through those tough conversations. So I'm glad that I love that you hear. I love to hear that 7 to 1. I like that a lot. That's pretty cool.
We take that.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
We should do a challenge on that. Everyone, every day, you're gonna have to share 7 positives and one constructive criticism for how many days? We're gonna do it for like a month. 30-day challenge.
Well, and I learned it from the baby, because that's actually like, it's especially with like children and adults. And so I was like, well, why can't we do this with us?
Yeah.
So
Yes, it's so true. So, it could be tricky. I know you guys have a child that you're raising together, a 1-year-old, maybe somewhere around there. How old is he?
He's 2.
2.5.
No! Oh my gosh.
2.5 going on 6 or 7.
That's right. He's walking already. Yeah.
He's a monster.
So how do you guys find balance? Like, I know a lot of couples find it challenging when they work together, turning it off, at the end of the day, and then having personal time, family time. How do you guys get through that?
It's, challenging. Of course, there's some days where that business still has to carry on, depending on if you're working on a transaction or something, and how it is negotiating. But first and foremost, like, our marriage is number 1, and then he is number 2.
Okay.
Right. And I know a lot of people, then business is 3. Yeah. And I know a lot of people tend to, the kids all of a sudden come first. Seen it where it doesn't work that way. Right.
Loses balance very quickly.
Yeah. It's not a good marriage at all. And of course, we need to be there for him, and he needs to see that we're strong together. So it has to be number 1. So
That's right.
sometimes we get off that track and then we have to come back around and remind ourselves, all right, this is where we're at right now. Why is it? Oh, yeah, because we're not making time for ourselves and making ourselves number one.
Yeah.
Well, too, like just, having like a schedule laid out and knowing where the other person is. And like, we just communicate communication obviously is key in any business relationship, in any marriage, but like when you're working together and being married, like you need to communicate and just knowing where the other person's at, who's taking him to school, who's picking him up from school, like knowing that in advance, and also setting time aside like for not just like each other, but then also, like this weekend, Brady was at the house watching football and I had Elijah, and I kept Elijah out for a couple more hours knowing like he probably wants some time to watch football. So just, I guess it all comes down to like respect and communication. And
that is such a great wife. I love that. You know why I say that? Because I'm a football freak too. That's why.
So, you did mention, your us time. What else do you guys do for your us time?
Well, we go to therapy once a week. We have a couples counselor, and it's, to me, that is probably one of, if not like the top 3 most important things we do. We don't, go into it with like, we're obviously, our marriage is really great right now, and I wouldn't even think about stepping back from that, because it's again that safe space. If something does pop up that's too big that I think I am unsure of how to bring it to Brady, that's a safe space that we can talk about that stuff. They give us tons of tools to help us, with little things that we've got going on. He's the one who had us that 7-1 with our child, and we're like, well, how about we do it? And he's like, good idea. And it just, I don't know, for me, it's just like, it helps. He also gives us tools now that we're building our relationship to help us get stronger together. And it's a neutral person, so that when I need to be checked, he's like, Megan, and same with Brady.
Same with me, yeah. And it allows a space also that if she's dealing with something individually too, not just between ourselves, that she can bring it up, right? And he can spin it into a light that's maybe a little bit easier for me to see, or it may be something I didn't even know.
I love it. In our real estate world, it's common to have that business coach, but I think it's so important to have that life coach, right? That marriage coach. So take what's the word I want to look for? But that taboo away from having to go to counseling, because I think we all need it, right? We all have challenging times that we're in disagreement, or we just need someone to check us and say, you know what, you need to rethink that, and maybe help us turn our perspectives around, right? So
think about, like, we spend all day at work together, we go home together, we have a toddler we're trying to raise, and toddlers are obviously challenging, and this business is tough, and if you get hit a bunch of times in work, and especially like with each other in work, that it is like, just to have somebody raise you back up. I really like I said, like, that's why I'm like happy that you asked that, and it just popped out, because I really do think, like, to remove the taboo from that, because it's it's like a marriage coach.
Marriage coach. We all need it. We all need it.
Yeah, it's very important for you to have your me time, just by yourself, just kind of gather your thoughts and everything. I know that there's times that I just need to be alone, man. Seriously. I just, like, yesterday was one of those days. I was with the team earlier in the day. Everyone left the office, and I was there by myself till like 8:30, and I was just able to focus, kind of gather my thoughts, get ready for the week. And it was, I enjoy it. I loved it, man. Even Veronica called us last night. She was like, "You're still in the office?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like almost 9:00 at night, but I just enjoy those times, and even in the mornings, you just need that time for yourself, man,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I make sure that in the morning, like, I go to the beach as many mornings as I can, just by myself, and like sit there and meditate and pray and journal, and that same thing. Like I need that time in the morning. And if I don't have it, like today I didn't get a chance to go there. I dropped the baby off and went right after because I'm like, I need that for my soul to get through the whole
I
day.
love that.
Yeah, I
so
do see that a
much.
lot, man. And honestly, it's a beautiful thing. I do see that in your posts a lot. You always
Yeah,
post
I was
that.
gonna say I we follow you, of course, on social media, and I love seeing all your beach posts and stuff. So I can tell that's something that is regular routine in your schedule, that you're out there and just kind of connecting with nature. And personally, I love going to the beach. Just the sound of the waves coming in and out, it's just so soothing and relaxing on your soul. And you just have that time to think to yourself. And oftentimes we don't take that time to think, to just allow our thoughts to run. And I was listening to someone else that I follow online, and he was talking about how we don't schedule in our day creative space. You know, when we were kids, we had time to do arts, right? You're coloring and things and that, and it just allows your mind to be creative. And so now as we're older and we're working and we pack our day full of tasks, and then there's no creative space to stop and think, right?
Yeah.
So to get out of our own heads and be able to just think about what do you want, you know, your vision, your plans, and thinking outside of the box. How can I do this different? How can I improve? And so I think
just
if
heard
we
one.
take that time,
Yeah, that was
so much
awesome.
benefit can come out of it.
I just heard one this morning. He goes, there's a little small crack in the nose. He says, but you can't hardly see that from there. What are you going to do with it? He goes, oh no, we're going to put it back up, but it's going to be 20 feet high in the air. He says, but I don't understand if you're the only one that knows about this crack because you can't hardly see it. He said, you got to understand. If you know about it, then you're not leading from a pure heart. You got to remember this. If you're leading with a corrupted mind already, then how other people are going to look at you and the external side of you?
Lead with integrity.
Lead with integrity. You know, when you take pride in that, he went on to say about Steve Jobs, when Steve Jobs took about 2 months off to help his father build a fence in this massive Montana, I guess, property that he had. He actually invited his publisher over to come see the fence completed, because he said what was most impressive is that he continued rubbing his hands back and forth on top of the fence. And he was trying to show him that everything matters, from the depth of the fence to the screws, and everything you build has to come eternally clear and pure vision before it can be seen externally. And I was like, whoa, that was deep, man. I'm telling you.
That sure was.
And it's funny too, like now that I've kind of, you know, like I said, I took a little bit of a step back from our real estate business and, you know, handling our agent attraction side of things, and taking a step back and taking that time for me. I didn't even know how uninspired I was, right? Like, because of all the tasks, and I didn't even realize that, like, I was just trying to get things done. And if they got done, I was fine with it, versus, like you said, like doing it well as the best you can. And now, I mean, like, that's why today I was like, oh, I can't skip the beach today, because I could already feel just that beginning feeling in my chest. I'm like, I need this time for me to like get realigned with where we're going right now and our vision, and get refocused. So
I love that. I love that so much. And since you said getting realigned, and that was another analogy that was used in a motivational program that I was listening today. And, you know, if you think of a car, cars have to be realigned from time to time. If it's not in alignment, it's going to be pulling you in one direction, pulling you in the other direction. And so is life, you know. If you're not aligned right, if you're not aligned with your values, if the people that you're with are not aligned right with you, you're going to be pulled in all these different directions. So it's important to get that alignment, to be in alignment. Otherwise, your life is going to be all over the place. So anyways, what advice do you guys have for couples looking to get, you know, to start working together in real estate? What would you say to them?
Go for it. Get ready for a challenge. Get ready for a roller coaster. Observe each other. Listen, right? Check your ego at the door. And remember why you're doing it in the first place.
There you go. There you go. I love it.
And I would just say, like, on top of what he said, is just figure out your strengths and weaknesses and know your role, and then stay in your lane like that. Like stay in your lane. That is like by far the best thing I could say is that, you know, trust the other person that they're going to do their job, and also trust yourself that you're going to do your job well. And then you can just cruise next to each other and to a successful business.
I love that so much. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Brady, Megan, you guys are with the Megan Farrell team. I appreciate you so much and wish you lots of success.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.